This is Optometrists Building Empires, and I'm your host, Ankit Patel. Each week, we'll explore the journey of multi-practice ownership and leadership in optometry. Join us for insights and strategies from the top minds in our field. This show is sponsored by My Business Care Team. My Business Care Team helps your office increase revenues, reduce costs, and reduce staffing headaches. Let's build your empire together. So today we have a special treat. The first person I want to introduce you to is someone who I've known for a couple of years now and really impressed by him. He's one of the most accomplished yet humble people I know. He's someone who I've admired and deeply respect because of his leadership style. He's written on the importance of early detection of macular degeneration, most recently in the review of Optometric Business. He has a special interest in fitting specialty contact lenses, especially for patients with corneal diseases like ectasia, keratoconus, and high astigmatism. He's a member of the American Academy of Ortho-K and Myopia Control, as well as a certified Brilliant Futures Myopia Management prescriber. He's the co-owner, and optometrist at Ridgeview Eye Care, Dobbins Letourneau Eye Care, and Limestone Eye Care. Please welcome Dr. Jake Letourneau and his COO, Rob Heileman. Welcome, guys.
Hey, thanks, Ankit. Can't believe we're actually here chatting in this setting. Listened to these many times, and to say we're humbled that you'd want to chat with us is an understatement.
Well, I'm glad we got you on. So I think it'll be a fun conversation. So let's jump in to the first question is, what's the most important thing that helped you grow your empire?
Well, thanks. We got here today mostly by, defining what we wanted to accomplish and having a vision. And once we did that, is having some humility, some vulnerability, and saying, this is what we're good at, but these are the things that we aren't. And, really learning, reaching out from colleagues, from experts in the industry, and really learning from those how to make our vision go. And from there, basically, it's just being persevering and being relentless in following what that vision was that we came up with.
I've heard that a few times, that you had a vision of what you wanted to achieve. Tell me a little bit more about when the rubber met the road, when you had something in front of you where following your vision was hard. Can you give me a story when you struggled with keeping on track with your vision? And maybe even tell us, briefly, what was your vision?
Well, I would say Rob and I, we kind of came together a little bit later, but early on, there really was, the only vision was to be as good at the processes and the details as we could. Once we used our resources, learned from others, and we were relentlessly pursuing that, the scoreboard started taking care of itself. Then from there, the challenges occur of, okay, now what do you do? And then once we started to grow, we had to sit down and define a 3-year vision, a 5-year vision. And once you have the vision, the biggest challenge is, how do you go achieve it? Yeah. And that's where we have really, fallen back on being humble, understanding what we're good at, and then being able to be vulnerable enough to go out and say to others like yourself, like others on your podcast, hey, you're killing it in this. How can we learn from you? Taking that and then being, very persistent in carrying it out.
And what was something that, as you're fulfilling your vision, growing your businesses, growing your empire, what's something you ran into that you didn't expect?
I would say the biggest thing we run into was the fact that we were going to need to expand. Following the processes led us to a point where we were either going to stay where we were, plateau and then decline, or move on to the next step of expansion or whatever that may be. because we couldn't continue to follow our vision and keep working on the processes, if the scoreboard couldn't go up anymore.
And what, where did that drive come from, I guess? Well, why did you set a vision, you kept going. Where do you think that came from? What made you wanna grow your empire?
Well, I'll say we're just really fortunate in the fact that I've got two amazing partners, and then now Rob, and we all, are different, but much the same in the fact that, our backgrounds and just our internal, our what drives us is always seeing if we can accomplish the next thing. And I would say that is really it. It's just internally, focusing on our process and the details, and then wanting never being okay with what the scoreboard says. And I would say that, there's a good to that and there's bad to that, because they're, we're not very good at being satisfied, and just relaxing. But, cause we always want to see if we can, improve, what's on the scoreboard.
Yeah, if I'm gonna kinda rephrase what I'm hearing so far, I'm hearing you had a vision, and that vision started off with, "Hey, we're just gonna be maniacally excellent at every single little detail that we do and execute on." And then on top of that, it was, "Okay, now we're getting good at this. Now let's go out and see what that looks like. What does that translate to further down the road, 3, 4, 5 years out down the road?" And getting the right partners who had aligned to that vision, all marching the same direction. Does that sound about right? Did I get anything wrong there?
No, that's exactly right. And then, we ran uh, into a situation where, hey, if we're going to achieve these goals and keep our scoreboard going up, we need more help. And luckily, we had a pre-existing relationship with Rob, and he has a background in operations, dental, ophthalmology, optometry, and we've known each other a long, long time. And he was living on the West Coast, and he was moving back to Kansas City, and he took a big chance. He Instead of going, with a multi-practice location at the time or going back into dental, he's like, "Hey, this is a challenge. I love this. Let's do this." And so, but I would say identifying that, hey, we can't do this ourselves anymore. We need more on the team, and we need the right people, as you would say, the right people in the right seats, so we can keep moving forward.
And Rob, that's actually interesting. So you came in not at the very beginning of but you came across it. Now you integrate with that vision. How did that feel? Like, what was that like coming on board with some practice that's growing? What was that experience like for you? And what were if you can share your pros and cons that you felt about the whole process and where you are now?
Yeah. Well, hopefully I'd love to, and part of what I'm going to share is also speaks to, I think, where the business has started to grow, and I'll kind of piece together the competitive spirit. I'll throw that out there. I think there's an element of knowing Dr. Letourneau here, and also his partners, that I think that's one of the things. They're very humble, and again, they'll connect and find the ways to make the business, move forward, or be innovative. But I've loved the competitive spirit. And I think that's where a lot of it comes from for all of us is, we're not satisfied. We're not necessarily trying to hurt the practice next door or down the street, but it's more of, I think, the athletes and all of us, to a certain degree of, it just ingrained in our personality. How do we get better? How do we make what we did yesterday better? So we become the star, or the best that we can be, but never hitting that mark, and understanding that. So for me, coming on board, I think that was what I was most interested in. I've known Jake for so many years, and I think we related well in that world of competitive spirit, and just wanting to be unique and special and innovative, and never be satisfied. And so for me, coming on board, that's what I saw before I got here. That was what I experienced when I hit the ground. And that's the thing that keeps me passionate about this business is, you know, yeah, let's not be the business that's there for 30 years and doesn't really move the mark or move the needle or, and there's nothing negative to that, but it's just really, how do we make this stuff of a patient that they buy? And how do we bring in things that maybe they didn't even know they needed? That competitive spirit, I think that drives many of us that are successful. That's what interested me most before I got here to what we've seen in the 3 years I've been here.
Yeah, I like the sports analogy. If I'm going to draw a parallel there, it sounds like you can have American football, right? If you can have the best game plan, you can even execute it at a very high level, but you can still lose the game. And the opposite could be true too. You could have a bad game, but still win the game. And so it's focusing on what you control. And I like that analogy of like, hey, it's a competition, but it's a competition with ourselves. Like, hey, are we doing the best we can do to set up ourselves up for the best chance of success?
Mm.
That's an interesting culture. I haven't heard that too much in optometry specifically. I usually hear it in sales cultures, not so much in optometry cultures. How do you find that works with the staff and doctors, and how do you balance the humility with competitiveness and achieving results?
So I'll give my 2 cents on that. It is a delicate balance. And I know, um, some days we fail at it, as we continue to grow our team, I think definitely break some eggs along the way, but I would at least share my perspective on our associate doctor team, very similar mindsets, not exactly the same. I think, there's different motivators for each of them, but I think at the core, there's a competitive spirit in each of them that let's not be satisfied. And whether it's doctor or whether it's our team that we're recruiting, we talk about that from day one. We almost try to scare some people away in the recruiting and onboarding process that, especially in certain positions like our sales team, that we are competitive. It's one of the things I often go through in the interview is like, we're competitive. We go 100 miles an hour. It's a sorry, not sorry thing, because it's important to know that going in, that the people that are successful here and the people that we look for have at least a similar spirit of competitiveness or drive that will help them be successful themselves personally, but also within our environment, hopefully. So we
Nice.
talked about it early on for both recruiting doctors to our team members.
Is that one of your, I don't know if you have core values, but it sounds like it might be one of those core values. Do you all have core values that you talk about at your company?
We're in the process of defining those core values actually right now for our future. Absolutely.
Fair
I
enough.
think we're at 7 and we're getting them down to 3 to 5.
Excellent.
And just to piggyback a little bit, to answer your question, the other part of that is, when you asked how do you balance it, is we are extremely transparent, and we explain the why on everything we do for our team, and we empower our team to come up with the game plan of how we're going to achieve the mission. And because at the end of the day, for us, it's all about the patient and their experience. And if it's good for the patient, obviously it's good for everyone. And our team members live that, and they always are understanding the why. So it's not always about, oh my gosh, what's the score? We got to hit this. It's not a sales mentality, but it's hey, here's the why, and these are the processes. And if we follow our processes and we pay attention to the details of our processes, the scoreboard will take care of itself. So it's back to what's best for the patient is always going to make the scoreboard, take care of itself. So it's a big why culture, as part of that balance between the competitiveness and how the team works.
Gotcha. And curious, have you ever had that visceral reaction like, oh man, this would be a lot easier if we didn't follow our vision. Be a lot easier if we did something that is not in line with how we do business. It'd be a lot easier not to accept the high standards we have from a hiring perspective, whatever it might be. Have you ever had that kind of like, oh, I don't know, it would be so much easier if we didn't do it this way, but we got to keep going.
Well, absolutely. I think that would be, we wouldn't be normal, I guess, if that wasn't the case routinely. But, probably a word that, no one will admit or doesn't want to hear, but there's natural fear of complacency, fear of, being complacent, letting off the gas, and then the vision isn't followed. And so maybe sometimes fear can drive that to to keep us from just being complacent and just exhaling too much.
Can you give me a story of when you had to make that decision where it would have been much easier to break one of your vision or break your values, whether it was hiring someone or something like that? Do you have any examples of when you had to make a tough decision where it was like, it would have been so much easier if I didn't do it this way, but if we did and we're better off for it? Or maybe it wasn't. Just would love to hear a story around that and how you dealt with it.
Yeah. One of the easiest ones is, we started this practice cold start, 2008, 1,500 square feet. We got to the point where we had maxed revenue, great culture, easy, show up, everything's packed, one doctor a day. It's just the two partners. And we could definitely just coast it and let that ride out and been very comfortable. But we said, no, let's go build a space 3 times as big. Let's bring on another doctor within 2 years. Oh my gosh, we can't afford an operations officer. We're not that big. We're not this multi-location practice, but we looked at our vision and said, if we're going to get to if we're going to accomplish this goal or keep driving towards our vision, we've got to take the chance. And no, we can't afford it, but maybe we can't afford not to. And so I guess those are 2 examples.
Nice. And I guess the rest is history. You guys have multiple locations now. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I can tell you from personal experience that, yeah, it's tough sometimes. It's a lot easier not having to do the work necessary to achieve a vision. But it's pretty awesome you guys were able to maintain that for so many years. So what's right now is uh, giving you fits around staffing? Because everyone's kind of experiencing staffing issues. Anything you'd be willing to share around your secrets around keeping good staff, or if you are dealing with staff challenges, how are you kind of managing that, as well as billing and insurance reimbursement? So how do you balance those?
I'll hit on the staffing challenges first. I mean, like you said, I think that's a national thing that really, if many people in our industry are struggling with, talking to colleagues, it's a consistent topic at some of our wisdom sharing meetings, to just a lot of the messages back and forth. What are you guys doing? What are you experiencing? So I think that's true for a lot of us right now. For us, I'll go back a little bit, actually almost 2 years ago now. Well, let me back up even to when I started. One of the things that Jake and his partner and I, we talked at length and through the years have continued to discuss is, how do we make this the best place for our team? How do we create this? We got a mission statement of an unmatched patient experience, but also how do we create that unmatched experience for our employees? So we're consistently trying to get feedback from them. And over time, I feel we've really tried to initiate things that even in a small business, we're not going to compete with some of the benefits of larger companies and corporations, but what can we do? So one prime example is our 4-day work week model. 2 years ago, give or take, we went to a 4-day work week model within our team. There's a lot of the feedback we used to get was, even, the 5 days, and we were doing some Saturdays, and ultimately there was consistent feedback. It's just, even if they were still 40 hours or under, it was just a lot of burnout and kind of just more mental. But so the 4-day work week model, the COVID experience, a lot of that pointed us in certain directions and feedback from our team. And so that's one example of how can we make ourselves more competitive and create an environment where they, first of all, are interested. So I would say, 8 out of 10, candidates right now that we're hiring, 8 out of 10 of them are saying, yeah, I looked at your post and the 4-day work week model is what drew me in. So that's definitely helping get some team members in the door now, and hopefully in retention and keeping them. And I think some of the challenges we've run into and currently are going through are just a little bit of growth challenge, but also, again, trying to keep with our mission is also some leadership. Within some teams, we've had a little bit more turnover and transition. And I feel very confident that a lot of that is also getting some leadership within that group. We've struggled to have a lead, in particular in one of our groups. And so we're very astute that leadership is a key piece of that and building a leadership team. And so, while we try to do the day-to-day for each team member to have a customized experience, a lot of that also for us is trying to find the right leadership and as we grow and get bigger and have more needs and leadership.
You're actually, I think, the third or fourth people I've talked to that have said the 4-day work week has really shifted the hiring process and industry. I don't know if you guys experienced this. Everyone else said like, when we expanded the hours, our revenues didn't dip at all. I don't know if you guys have seen the same thing. Revenue's not dipping, even though you went to a 4-day work week. You may not actually be, you may be open more than 4 days, but I'm curious to see is that how you manage it? You open more than 4 days, but everyone only has a 4-day shift.
Yeah. Yeah. We were initially, when we started that, we were actually open 5.5, because we would also be open on Saturdays. And then just through, again, so a lot of the wisdom sharing conversations that we would have as we started down the path of the 4-day model, we got some really good feedback about the Saturday model. And I know for Jake, it's like some offices are doing Saturdays, others aren't. But for example, like this location or 2 of these locations, we don't do the Saturdays, and that was a big shift. So we went from 5.5 days to just 5-day model. But we spread that out differently. We extended a little bit of the doctor hours to compensate, and they even went earlier in the mornings. We start much earlier than probably most practices do.
Gotcha. Okay. How about the insurance side, billing reimbursements that are going down, not necessarily, or staying the same or going down? How are you all dealing with that challenge?
Not to repeat what others have said, but I kind of have to, is basically part of our vision statement that we started 3 or 4 years ago was to establish what we call different pillars of or almost sub clinics within our clinic. And multiple of those are, do not rely on insurance. And so just to continue to expand those is what our vision for that is right now. And then valuing the services that we do provide, and making sure that we provide a level of service and that it helps with our, the part of the exam that, isn't determined by managed care. So really honing in on our subclinics that, are not managed care covered.
What are those? I'm guessing like dry eye, maybe one of them. What other subclinics do you?
Yeah. So our dry eye spa, and then our specialty contact lens clinic, and our myopia management.
Gotcha.
So those are our 3 big pillars. And, for the most part, 2 of them are zero managed care or insurance, and one of them, a percentage of it is. So
nice. Yeah. You might be interested to know, I did talk to another doctor who I don't know if the podcast has dropped yet. It will drop soon. She specializes in neuro optometry and sports medicine. And she is like it's ridiculous how much volume she gets just from being the expert in that field, in that area. It's just still a lot of it's still managed care. Some of it isn't. But that seems to be a consistent theme I'm hearing is specialization. How can you get more care to the patient? It also is better for the business as well as the patient. What about what's kind of keeping you all up at night? Like, what is it that you're like, oh man, I wish I had a magic wand that could fix this problem?
Oh, you mean besides how am I going to parent a teenager in a few years?
How old are your kids?
9, and Rob has a teenage twin, so he's got double the fun there. I would say, just to be honest, is really just the worry of are we going to ever get complacent? Are we going to quit evolving? Are we, staying on the front curve of where our industry takes us? Because I don't foresee that anything's going to stop changing very, very rapidly, and we're going to continue to have to evolve and do that. So I would say just the fear, the only thing that keeps us up at night is, hey, we can't be complacent and we can't get too comfortable. We have to continue being comfortable in an uncomfortable, environment sometimes.
Well, let's flip it a little bit. What are you most excited about in the industry? Either Rob or you, Dr. Letourneau. What are you guys excited about? Maybe Rob for the operations side and what you're seeing by patient care, and maybe some things you're doing that are really unique and different. And Jake, what about you from maybe a clinical industry wide perspective?
Operationally, I'd say for us, it's the flip side of what Jake just said is really just, can we keep that trajectory of the growth mindset of the never being satisfied. To me, that's the fun part too. I mean, it can be the greatest challenge, but also to me, the thing that creates the passion. So for us, as an example, just opening another office in February, can we, big success in year one, but can we continue that success while still building on the home bases, the ones that are established, and taking the specialty pillars, as we call them, and not being satisfied with the growth we've seen the last 2-3 years, which has been significant and amazing. But again, to the point of some of the challenges we've talked about is you see the plateau. Now, how do you raise that plateau to a different level so you go past it? And so, finding the ways that maybe other doctors have not, to use the especially pillar example, try to do better outreach to get referrals, which is not all that common in art, in optometry. It is in ophthalmology, but not optometry. Just examples like that. Can we continue to innovate and not be satisfied with plateau? To me, that's also the exciting thing from an operational standpoint of, we've done and thought of this.
Yeah.
Now, how do you get around it to continue that growth trajectory?
I like that. Jake, how about you? What do you see exciting in terms of maybe the medical side or overall industry perspective?
I would say I'm interested. I don't know if excited is the right word, but I'm interested to see how AI will be part of what we do and how we evolve with it, because it will be part of optometry and of how we practice, and from an operational standpoint, but also from a medical standpoint. And I'm interested and excited to see, how that evolves. And once again, I think those that adapt and utilize it to increase their patient experience and the level of care, I think we'll really see good things happen. So I'm excited to see what it looks like. And once again, keep our head not in the sand, but just understanding that this is the reality, and we need to utilize this to elevate everything that we do.
Yeah, AI is definitely exciting. We could talk a whole nother hour or two just about that. So it's a lot of fun. So let's shift gears a little bit. Talk about you all a little more personally, and I'd be curious. One story from each. I'd like to hear a formative story for each of you all. Well, it could be something that it was maybe in third grade, maybe you got part of some club or something, and it was really it made you who you are today, or it could have been in college or post college, whatever it might be. Something that you felt, an experience that made you who you are today. What would that experience be for you all? And I'll let either one of you all share first.
I'll go first. I would go back to high school days. I often feel like the high school days are the most formative for me. For me, I was living in Houston, growing up mostly in Kansas, but Houston, it was kind of a new, fresh place and new experiences, new people. Being in high level competitive soccer to starting to work, or get into the workforce as you're 15, 16 years old. And I think the combination of those two for me are often the most formative. I'll give it to my high school coach was probably one of my greatest mentors and teachers to, hardest guys, one of the hardest people to challenge you, don't take the easy road, always strive to be better the next day. And a lot of what we've been talking about, that was very formative for me, where before that it was a lot of, okay, I enjoyed this sport, I enjoyed that, or I enjoyed 6 sports, but never really taking them that seriously other than just having fun. And I always to this day appreciate that at both in the business and the personal world, where I tend to do a lot of coaching in soccer. So that's formative. And then business, I often go back to my father for the formative mentorship piece and just the trajectories that he took. And for me to start seeing that in the high school was definitely some of the most formative experiences that I've had, from, his trajectory in junior college to getting really at a high level in medical administration. That's kind of where he took his middle career and just seeing what you could do with that and the amazing things that you could dive into. And so that was very formative for me.
Nice. Well, thank you for sharing. Jake, how about you? Anything that you have that comes to mind that, like, yeah, you know what? Because of the experience, I feel like that's what really drove me to be the way I am.
Probably nothing super specific, but multiple times. I mean, only thing I really understand is athletics. So, multiple times along those journeys where, you were told, or you didn't get the position you thought you were going to get at first. Or you were told, no, you can't do this, or you will be skilled or athletic enough to achieve this. And just not wanting to hear it and not hearing it, and then going and accomplishing it to the best of your abilities. Or those are, I would say, multiple times that's happened over the years. And it's really just helped us. And when we started into optometry, didn't know what we were doing, but just kind of kept following that pattern.
That's pretty, yeah. I appreciate you sharing that. I think it's sort of I call it the Michael Jordan story, right? It's like, oh, I got cut from my high school team. It's like, no, I'll show you. I'll come back stronger. So it's pretty interesting. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I think both of you all played sports in college. Is that right?
I didn't do any type of scholarship for soccer, but I
Okay.
was pretty, before that I was pretty high level and got into coaching right at the college level.
Nice. And Jake, did you play? I think you played a sport in college. Did you not?
Yeah. So I was lucky enough to get to play football, and then my partners, one of them was actually, he was an elite level gymnast, and he was actually at one point the top triathlete in the world. And my other partner was, very high level athlete in high school. So uh, so just surrounded, once again, we were all surrounded by kind of those same backgrounds as far as on the leadership side of things.
Do you all have to do physical fitness tests to get on job for leadership there? It's like, okay, how fast can you run a mile? Go.
Yeah.
That's the next area. And as you're running, you ask questions. Yeah, that sounds like a tough test, but it sounds like there's something there. So that's pretty cool. Um, so so help me understand a little bit about how things have changed. So I'll ask this question, and I'll ask you first, Jake. If you were to take me back to 4 days after you graduated from OD school, what advice would you give yourself? What you know now?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I think I would have educated myself more on, you know, if I was going to go into private practice, what does that look like? From a business standpoint, from a practice management standpoint, understanding that more instead of just trying to wing it until you kind of dive all in and then start really learning it. But so I guess I would say for those that want to go the private practice route is really take your time, have a great game plan, utilize resources and learn the business side before you jump in. So you have a plan and you're following it rather than don't try to build the plane along the way. Build your plane really well, but make sure you take off. Don't just keep building the plane, trying to perfect it and never get it off the ground. So
That's a great analogy. And I have a question for you on that though. Would you still have done this knowing what you know now and how hard it might have been? Like, I'm curious, would you, if you gave all the information to your younger self, would your younger self been like, you know what, I think I'm good with just, working corporate?
yeah, I don't think, I just think everything happens like it's supposed to.
Fair enough.
And, I wouldn't change it because it was the direction that we were supposed to go. And, yeah, I wouldn't redo it.
That's fair enough. Fair enough. I appreciate that. Rob, how about you? What would you tell yourself? Maybe, I'm going to ask you something, a little bit different question.
Yeah,
How long have you been working together with Jake and over there?
Well, this time around, we're at 3 years, a little over 3 years.
3 years. Okay. Okay.
And we actually met each other as undergrads, and we worked for the same optometry practice that
Oh,
he now partially owns.
okay. Gotcha. Well, let's go back to when you graduated, either grad school or undergrad. When you're going off and doing your about to go into the career in whatever field, what would you give yourself as insight and advice 4 days after graduation?
I would say be bold. I think that's probably the biggest thing for me. And this is more of a personal reflection and personal growth trajectory. I'm generally quiet. I'd say even back in the day, especially shy personality. And so, a lot of that for me was don't be afraid of it. Be bold, take the chances. Um, then it speaks to kind of what, you know, for me, my personality, and I think what fits really well with Ridgeview of the don't be afraid of trying that out. Be innovative, be new and inventive. But for me back then, it would have been be bold, take the chance. Don't be afraid to jump into that and speak up.
I like it. But make sure, I think you have let's get the airplane off the ground. Jake's like, let's just make sure it'll take off first.
Right.
Yeah, I like that. So real quick, where can people connect with you all if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, we're both available via email at any time. We can make sure. I know you already have our Ridgeview emails, but yeah, big believers. Like I said, kind of going back to we have worked with so many people in the industry, colleagues, mentors, friends, and everyone that's super successful that we've reached out to, they're all givers and not takers, and we are the same way. And we hope that whatever we're doing, if someone thinks that it could be beneficial to them, we will always give our time, because, we're all in this for everyone that's listening to this. Everyone wants to be the best version of themselves they can be. And we're always going to take the time to help in any way we can, because all those people on your podcast, yourself, others that are in our industry, as we were going through each phase of our chasing our vision or following our vision, they helped us, and they all took the time, and they continue to do that. And that's what we will always do.
And for audience members who might be listening that may not necessarily see the show notes right now, can you just spell out your email if you're willing to be contacted there? At least one email. It doesn't have to be both, but at least one.
Joe, I'll give you mine. It's robert@ridgevieweyecare.com.
All right. We'll get that in the show notes. Appreciate that. So thank you again, Dr. Letourneau and Rob, for being on the show.
Thanks again for having us. We are humbled, to say the least, and we really appreciate all you do.
And thank you again, audience, for listening. And I'm sure the audience appreciates it too, that you all are here. So thank you all. And if you laughed, learned something, please share the YouTube video or the podcast with someone you know. And thank you again, Dr. Letourneau and Rob. And this has been another exciting episode of Optometrists Building Empires. And we'll see you next time. That's a wrap on another episode of Optometrists Building Empires. Thanks for joining. For show notes and more, visit buildingempires.live. This show is proudly sponsored by My Business Care Team. My Business Care Team was born out of staffing challenges my wife and I faced together, managing multiple optometry locations. We refined our approach at Classic Vision Care and now offer our expertise to others. If you're experiencing challenges with staffing and you'd like to set up a discovery call, we'd be happy to help you and connect you with the right resources. We'll see you next time.